Hello. Today, I'd like to introduce Singhashri. We'd like to have a conversation on mindfulness in isolation because we are in isolation for the last 3 weeks, and there has been many different emotions coming up during this period, and I find mindfulness has been quite helpful to me. And I like to ask Singhashri, who is mindfulness teacher and a meditation teacher for many years, to give us some practical tips and helpful practice guide to help us get through this period.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Lee. Yeah, it's really nice to be here with you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Singhashri, and I'm a local mindfulness teacher. I live here in Stoke Newington. And yeah, I reached out to Lee. It was at the very beginning of the lockdown. You sent out a beautiful blog on your newsletter talking about how we can be calm at home. And yeah, it evoked for me, the many times that I've been in the shop and had lovely conversations with you and your colleagues. And I even, a couple of times going into the shop, wondered about how it would be to do some mindfulness in the shop. And then when I saw your blog, I thought, oh, I need to reach out to Lee and offer to maybe we could do some mindfulness together and see what happens. And you very quickly responded with this idea of doing an interview. So yeah, I really appreciate the creativity of that.
That's so great, because I've been thinking about offering mindfulness courses in this shop for like quite a long time, because in the past we offer some other like calligraphy, indigo dye, etc. But that's all for it's practical. Yeah. And this is for the mind, which is the area that I'm really interested in, to bring peace and calm to our mind, and in order to reach happiness, because there are so much worries and stress that we have to deal with day to day, even if it's not with coronavirus, but just our daily lives has been so just modern day syndrome, I think. I think mindfulness has helped me in terms of dealing with difficult situations, such as my parents pass away, and I have serious health issues in the past, and this has really helped me. So I thought it would benefit others if I can introduce this and help others. That's what I like.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I appreciate the altruistic intention of wanting to share what's helped you with other people, which is why I started teaching as well. So I came across mindfulness about 20 years ago when I was living in San Francisco, and I did throw myself into the practice quite fully. And I was also, it was similar, actually. I was still grieving the death of my mother and struggling with sort of finding myself and my place in the world. And it really helped me to just
totally.
put more awareness and compassion into my life towards myself and other people. And then, I felt a strong urge to want to share it with others as well.
Yeah. So I feel, I have the shop for 15 years, and it has always been a community hub to the list. But I'm not, I have never trained in this area. So I feel I'm, obviously not adequate to help others more. So that's why you are here. I'm really grateful to bring in the expert.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting, isn't it, that we both had an idea about the shop, and then we found each other online during the lockdown.
That's one good thing come out of it. Is this. I'm so grateful.
Good.
So
should we start with a practice? Because I'm wondering, people watching might be interested in just a practical, direct experience, and then we can say more about what mindfulness is and how people might practice in the lockdown.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you this.
Oh,
This a
oh,
Tibetan singing bowl. So I'm going to start our practice with
nice sound. You want to hit it one more time?
that's loud.
Yeah, very nice. So let's close our eyes.
Okay.
Take a few deep breaths. So even just a few deep breaths can be really helpful to bring awareness out of the busy mind and into the body. And then we can also, as we do this, begin to bring awareness to where we can feel our feet on the floor, the body against the chair or the cushions that you might be sitting on just now. Taking a few breaths to feel those sensations there, where the body's in touch with the ground beneath us. And then for a moment, also opening to sounds all around us. Just noticing sounds, letting them come and go naturally. And then also beginning to notice the breath, which is also coming and going. Allowing the breath to support awareness coming more into the body and sensations in the body as we breathe. Aware of any thoughts or emotions that are here just now, just letting them be however they are. Just noticing how we are just now, sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Breathing with all of that. And then starting to broaden out again. So aware of the whole body breathing, aware of the pressure where the body meets the seat on the floor. Feeling gravity drawing the body down towards the ground. And aware of space stretching in all directions all around us and above us. And when you're ready, you can open the eyes again. How did that feel?
That was very good. Calm my mind.
Oh, good.
Definitely calm my mind. Thank you very much
You're
for this
welcome.
little practice. So I'd like to start to ask you if you could explain a little bit about mindfulness.
Yeah.
What is mindfulness for people who hasn't come across this before?
Yeah. So mindfulness is a practice, an intention, a way of life, you could say, where we're beginning to train the mind to pay attention to what's happening in any moment. So in any moment, we can actually purposefully bring awareness to our direct experience. So as I was doing in that practice, any sensations, thoughts, or emotions that are here. And a key to mindfulness is that we're doing that with an attitude of non-judgment. So just allowing things to be as they are, rather than what we habitually do, which is to, if something's happening that we don't like, to resist and push away that experience, or if something's happening that we really want more of, maybe to kind of want to pull that towards us and want more, and then when it goes away, to be really disappointed. So with mindfulness, we're just opening to all as it is.
Yeah, but with my personal experience, when I notice my thoughts are just like, it's like on a runaway train, and it starts spiraling, even sometimes negative thoughts, and it just lead into like a complete disaster at the end. And you think you talk yourself out of doing anything.
Yeah.
So, you got to be aware and then stop that thoughts, or just be aware of that thought, become non-judgmental, because it could just lead into quite negative feelings. And
yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. And I just want to, one thing I want to reflect back to you is that you just talked about that whole experience with a lot of awareness.
Right.
So there is awareness there. Yeah. And
stop it.
Notice it. Yeah.
Notice
and
it.
That's different than being caught up in it. When we're caught up in our thoughts, we're not aware that we're having thoughts. We just are the thoughts. We've become the thoughts. Yeah. So with mindfulness, what we're doing is we're learning how to kind of take a step back, or you could say step out of the thoughts or emotions. Not in order to push them away or disregard them or suppress them, but just to see them for what they are. Yeah. So just one thing that we sometimes say, I worked for a wonderful mindfulness organization for 8 years. And one of the things we used to say there, it was called Breathworks, which some of your listeners, people watching this may have heard of Breathworks. But one of the things we say is, you are not your thoughts. And it is possible to be able to look at your thoughts rather than from your thoughts. Yeah. So we don't, it's a choice that we make when we kind of wake up in the middle of a thought train, like you were talking about the
runaway train.
The only way the only reason you can explain that experience is because at some point you kind of came to in the middle of it. And we're like, oh my God, I'm totally. And then the choice is, okay, I don't need to keep doing that. Actually, I can step back into a wider, more open awareness. I can appreciate, sometimes the thoughts are helpful. Like, oh, I forgot to send that email, or I need to get dinner on the table, or, oh God, I need to follow up with that person about that thing. Or, sometimes it's practical things that we need to do, and that's helpful. So we can also appreciate it. Like, thank you, thoughts. That's helpful. And actually, right now, I'm just trying to be more present. And that's why the breath is also very important in mindfulness practice, because it's such an easy, simple thing that's always there that can help us to come out of the head and into the body.
Okay,
so it brings the awareness literally down into more of a expansive sense of the whole body, rather than just how we usually live our life. It's from here
above the neck.
It's just
So what are the known benefits for practicing mindfulness, and the science behind it? Could you explain a little bit?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll say a little bit more, just that last point there about getting out of the head and into the body. So one of the things that they're learning, neuroscience has been really helpful in helping us to understand more of what's happening. So one of the things that they've learned is that you can't actually be completely caught up in rumination, for example, or worry. So ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. You can't be totally caught up in that and be aware of what's happening in your body at the same time. So when we train the mind to come back into the body and to open more and more to sensations in the body, what we're doing is we're sort of rehabituating ourselves away from that habit of being caught up so much into resting in awareness of sensations in the body more fully. And we can't actually do that and be caught up in thought at the same time. So that's a helpful way in which the brain has been wired to support us. So, of course, anyone who's meditated for any length of time knows that it's a process, because you come into the body and then you quickly kick back into thoughts and you realize you've been caught up and then you come back again. So training is something that, you build up over time. So it may be that in any moment, it feels like you're caught up in thoughts and in the body, but actually you're just moving between the two.
between the two, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
Like
be
a ping
at
pong
the
game.
two places in the same time.
And also one thing that I found really, really helpful, you know, I came to mindfulness at a time where I was grieving, and I was also, you know, in a lot of resistance around the world, you know, seeing how difficult a place the world could be and feeling really angry about that. So one thing that I found really helpful in learning about the science was also that we do have inbuilt mechanisms that we've inherited through evolution that are there to protect us. So at the very back of the brain, we've got the reptilian brain, sometimes referred to, which is the part that's been built to keep us safe. So this is the part of the brain that kicks in, you know, when we're about to step onto the street and a bus is coming and we pull back. It protects us. It knows how to kind of override the rational brain. And it was developed back in the day when the danger of getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger was pretty strong. So we were geared up to kind of watch out for threats. Yeah. So this is sometimes referred to as our negativity bias, where we focus on things that could potentially harm us, because by not focusing on them, we died. So our survival was dependent on that. Unfortunately for us in the modern world, there's lots of things now that we feel threatened by that actually aren't real threats, but we get it's like this part of our brain gets
Stimulated.
Yeah. So with mindfulness practice, one of the wonderful things that we can do is train that part of the brain to just calm right the way down. So again, coming into the body has been shown to support a calming of this part of the brain, and in particular, focusing on pleasant sensations, appreciating beauty. That's one of the things about the store that I really love, is that the first time I ever walked into that store, I knew, someone who appreciates beauty and knows how to pick beautiful things and put them on display in a beautiful way has created this space. And it is a refuge. You know, I find your store is a beautiful refuge. So sometimes if I'm, you know, I work from home. Even before lockdown, I worked from home. So it's not that strange for me to still be home working. But yeah, and I would sometimes decide in the middle of the afternoon, I need to go for a walk. And then I'd be walking by Rouge and I'd think, I need to go in there. That'll help me to kind of be with pleasantness after quite a stressful day. So yeah, that's one way that we can begin to rewire.
Thank you. Yeah. I do get, well, one thing I can take the compliment is many people say it's a beautiful store, that I kind of find beauty is so important in our daily lives.
It is. Yeah, it's critical.
Yeah. It's critical.
That there's things that we can stop and appreciate.
Yeah.
And really take
mindful objects.
Objects. Yeah, that's right.
So during this lockdown period, many people in different situations, but in isolation, not in the, for example, me, I'm in isolation with my family, got young kids and a partner. So there's many different layers of relationship you need to deal with. I think throughout the day, I end up need to have my own time to find some peace to help to navigate through the day. How can you give some practical tips on how to practice mindfulness during this period for people with different situations? And
I appreciate you sharing that. I'm in a small 1-bedroom flat with my partner. We're both working from home now, so we've had to navigate that and come up with creative solutions. And it's interesting because I noticed even myself, you know, at the beginning of the lockdown period, when we were still learning more about how this pandemic was playing out in the world, I was on the news a lot. So I noticed, you know, I'd wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is check the news. And I've stopped that now because I was aware it was having an effect on my mental states, and I was getting into a lot of worry and anxiety, which then I could see throughout my day would lead to grumpiness. And then maybe I'd get into a little argument with my partner, and I just thought, oh, these aren't the right conditions. I need to put in other conditions. So it's not that I'm ignoring the news. I do check it, but I make sure I'm taking in just enough to understand what's happening, and not sort of binging on it and letting it sort of drag me down in a particular way.
Totally.
I need to be well resourced to keep doing my work as well.
Yeah.
So I think one thing, some people may be familiar with the term digital detox. So being aware of how much we're on our devices, what we're doing on our devices, even how we're communicating, what we're communicating, whether or not that's helpful for us or for other people, I think is an important awareness to have during this time.
Totally.
Sensitivity to that.
Yeah, because I was, sorry to interrupt, but I was at the beginning, the first week, second week, I think I was just completely caught up in the situation, just checking and being worried about, you know, my business, my family. And also there are so many people in the world that's in the same situation, and people are dying. And this has an overwhelming effect on me. Even if I haven't got anyone who is in hospital, but for those people who have loved ones in hospital, and that must be so stressful.
Yeah. It's very stressful and overwhelming.
Yeah.
My
but
sister,
sorry.
I appreciate you bringing that in, because my sister works in an ICU unit in a hospital in Boston. So
oh wow,
I can connect, I can relate to that level of anxiety around, like, you know, what if she gets sick and I can't get home, you know, be with her family. And
that's it, because with this disease you have to be isolated from, you know, separated from this.
So one thing that I also have found really useful, particularly when that kind of worry and anxiety kicks off, is again coming back to like, okay, is that thought helpful right now? Like, is that doing me a service to worry about that? But what's actually here is, you know, and I'm doing this because it's often in my heart, you know, I take a deep breath and I feel into this part of the body, and actually what's here has a lot of integrity. I care for her. I love her. I want her to be safe and well. So when I connect with that, in a way, then I can be with the part of me that's hurting rather than being with the part of me that's worrying. Because the part of me that's worrying, again, it's that part of the brain that's trying to solve the problem or take care of things or help me to plan. But actually, there's nothing to plan right now. I can't plan anything right now. All I can do, you know, we all are literally stuck at home. So all I can do is turn towards and be with, the difficulty, and just meet that with compassion for myself, and give it the space and the time it needs to be fully felt and known as an experience.
But also, I think that's a really good point, that you feel for her. You have this incredible connection with your sister. And what maybe is good is to express that through maybe a message, or you know, just writing or a phone call or something to connect. I think that will help to express.
Thanks for saying that. So I'm definitely in touch with her, and I do a daily blog, so I am writing every day about my experience, which is really helping me stay sane right now, actually.
I love your blog.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Really beautifully written.
Thank you. I've had a lot of people, it's interesting, I've had a lot of people reach out and say that they find it really grounding, which I find
it's just all the emotion went through you, and you're noticing all these little things that even if you know, you go out for a walk, but that timed walk and limited walk was such really important part of your day. And all these little things happening in the home, and you all recorded, but in a really lyrical, beautiful way.
Thank you. It's the art of paying attention, really. And somehow awareness has this magical quality. So it's like when we pay attention, somehow that makes it bearable. Whereas if we're resisting what's happening and not willing to turn towards and attend to it, then it becomes unbearable. It's the resistance that's unbearable, not the experience in and of itself. Although, you know, it can take a long time to realize that through practice. So I don't want to discount anyone's experience. Sometimes it can really feel like the overwhelm is unbearable. And then, the only thing I can say to people watching this is to just give it a try. Just see if it's possible to just stop, pause. I find pausing, it's interesting, the word pause, actually, because we are on a pause. Like the whole world is paused right now. Like we've hit the button. And we have to do that to take care of ourselves.
Sure.
To take care of each other. So it's an act of self-love and other regarding to stay home, even though it feels sometimes like we're prisoners in our own homes. So paying attention somehow becomes a doorway or a gateway into somehow being able to just then be with things as they are, rather than trying to change, wishing things were different or trying to change things.
That's a really good advice, because sometimes I go into that trap of, I wish it's different. Yeah.
Which is okay as well. That's there as well. That's there to be paid attention to.
Sure.
That part of us that wants something else to be happening.
So for my next question is, for someone who hasn't practiced mindfulness before, how can they get started?
Yeah, well, I think, you can start in any moment. Any moment is a moment where one could be mindful. So, just taking 3 deep breaths can make a big difference in terms of, again, introducing a pause, particularly in a moment where emotions might be really high, particularly maybe if it has something to do, like for me, if I have received a difficult email that's brought up emotions, before responding, I might have to take 3 deep breaths. I might have to wait a whole day because I don't want to just fire something off out of a reactive space. So just learning that simple skill of 3 deep breaths and using those deep breaths to help coming into present moment awareness, what's here now, sensations, thoughts, and emotions, how am I? And then maybe we can ask ourselves, okay, what's needed? What choice can I make right now? And sometimes the choice might be not to do anything right away, to wait and see, if we can get into a more positive mental space before responding or moving on to the next thing too quickly, for example. So and then, there's tons of resources out there now online. I mean, literally thousands of apps and websites and courses that people can take. So I would say, look around for something, maybe do a good bit of research to get started. And then, just starting with 10 minutes a day can make a really big difference.
Big difference.
In terms of meditation. I mean, mindfulness is much more than just meditation. I think some people think, it's meditation. I'm going to have to meditate for an hour a day. I don't have time for that. No. But actually, that's one of the other good things of the lockdown is maybe not everyone, because obviously essential workers are still, out there working, and we can appreciate that. But for those of us who are at home, maybe we do have a bit more time that we can put into starting a mindfulness practice, and now would be the time. They say it takes a month to change a habit. Well, we might be in this for another month. So there you go. 10 minutes a day. That's all now. 10 minutes a day.
Sure. 10 minutes a day. So that leads to the next question, which is, you have answered part of it already, is, during lockdown, we are at home. So just start your practice, really. What other practical tips do you have in terms of, say, your surroundings and whether you should be sitting or lying down or?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so I would say if you're interested in starting a practice, just see if you can carve out a place in the home where you can meditate. It doesn't have to be sitting on the floor with your legs crossed. It could be sitting on your bed or laying on your bed or sitting in a chair or out in the garden. If you don't have a garden, maybe going for a mindful walk through the park. I know they don't want us lounging around too long, but maybe just sitting on a bench for 5 minutes is okay if you're not in anyone's way, and taking a few mindful breaths, noticing, again, the earth beneath you, the sky above, the space all around, taking in the beauty of whatever is there that you can appreciate. So and also just want to acknowledge, we all have different abilities in terms of our physicality. So it could be that for some people sitting isn't comfortable, maybe laying down is better. I have a little area, I'm in a Victorian conversion on the ground floor flat. And so we've got a big bay window. So I've just set up my meditation spot in the bay window. And, you know, that might sound noisy, and it can be, but actually part of mindfulness is not trying to block anything out. So for me, when I'm meditating, I do just let sounds come and go. And in the same way that I let the thoughts come and go, you know, they're just there, coming and going in awareness. So
That's
yeah,
great.
carving out a space is really important. Yeah, and also having something beautiful there.
Yeah.
That kind of draws you back every day.
What's your beautiful objects that you?
Yeah, so you may actually be able to see. This isn't actually meditate. This is my desk.
Oh,
but I do have beauty here because I do writing. I do need to stay creative in my work. So I've got some beautiful cards from friends that I've collected over the years. Some of my favorite ones. I've got some ornaments. My father's a wood turner.
Oh wow! Okay.
Ornaments. Yeah.
So you appreciate the
I've
craft.
got a picture. Yeah. I've got a picture of a lion there.
That's your name?
Yes. Yeah. My name is Singhashri. So Shri is radiance and Singha is lion. So she has the radiance of a lion.
Amazing.
So I haven't mentioned this, but I am also a practicing Buddhist. So that's my Buddhist name. It was given to me by my teacher. So yeah, so those are just some of the things that bring me beauty. I've got my own singing bowl here as well. And yeah, I've got other things. I've got some Buddhist statues that that are helpful for me to remember sort of the integrity of the posture, actually. So the Buddhist statues, they're always sat so calmly and grounded, and that just helps me to remember that. It kind of evokes something in my psyche that helps me to think, oh yeah, I've got a body and I could also be grounded. I could sit.
Oh, that's really good to know. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that. Do you have any statues that?
Yeah.
How does it help you? Yeah.
Yeah, I could actually show you one of my statues.
Oh, could you?
Yeah. So I've got this statue of, this is Green Tara.
Yeah.
She's got a leaf here from the Bodhi tree, which is the tree in India that the Buddha apparently got enlightened.
Oh, under that tree.
Yeah. So this is from that actual tree. Well, it's from a descendant of that tree. But yeah, so Green Tara, she's a goddess from the Tibetan tradition. She's a Buddha in and of herself. So she's associated with compassion and fearlessness. And you might notice she's got one foot stepping out into the world. So she's poised in her meditation posture, but she's also ready to act in any moment out of compassion. So she's been really important to me during this time.
Amazing.
I feel like she's just right there and to sit with me in a way.
To sit you.
Feel her sitting with me.
Yeah, great. Oh, that's very nice.
And then the little practice that we did at the beginning of this interview. So I don't know how long that was, but
2 or 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So you could do something like that. Yeah. It's not very long to just bring the energy right the way down. So that's a practice called a breathing space, and it has a very simple. I'm doing this because sometimes it's referred to like an hourglass. So it has a very simple structure, which is that you start with an open awareness, bringing the attention to the ground beneath us, earth, how the body feels, kind of dropping down into gravity, releasing tension into the earth. And then you open to sounds. And then you come in a little bit closer, noticing the breath in the body, noticing any thoughts or emotions that are here, meeting those with a non-judgmental awareness. Do that, breathe with that for a little while, and then opening out again, a broad open awareness. All of the sensations, thoughts, and emotions coming and going, aware of the ground again, space all around you. So that's the hourglass, starting with a broad open awareness, coming in, focusing on what's here now in our own experience, and then broadening out again. And as you said, it has that wonderful effect of bringing almost immediately a sense of calm, relaxation.
It's been very helpful for me for this interview even.
Oh, good.
I was quite nervous. So we only got one more question. So this question is about people who has young children at home. Such as myself, I have a 6 and 3-year-old, and to have them locked in a room, in a a place, you know, for this long has been quite difficult. So how can we practice mindfulness with children, and how young should we start? Could we start?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
So I feel like I have to say I don't have children myself, but
No.
I do have a lot of nieces and nephews.
Mm-hmm.
And I myself was a youth worker for a number of years when I was living in San Francisco in my 20s and 30s. So
cool.
I do know a bit about children.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first thing I want to say is actually, before talking about how to do mindfulness with children, to just say, as parents, to just give yourself a break, because it's hard, you know, what you're being asked to do. So I can imagine there's a lot of thoughts and emotions that come in around feeling like, oh God, you know, how can I manage? And, you know, being asked to work from home and be a teacher and be a parent all at the same time, which I think is impossible, an impossible request. So yeah, I just want to encourage parents out there to just try and be soft and gentle with yourselves around your expectations of what you can really realistically do. And in a way, if you can work with your own anxiety levels and mental states, that will have an effect on the children, because children are very sensitive and they pick up on things. So it's important that we are working with our own energy so that they feel safe, you know, and secure during a time where there is a lot of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I think, you know, taking them outside. One of the things I've been enjoying on my daily walk is watching parents or caregivers playing with their young children outside, and knowing that that's probably happening more now than it normally does, because usually, you know, we'd be at work and the kids would be at school. So,
yeah,
you know, in a way that the kids, I can imagine kids are probably really enjoying that, having time to be in a space with their parents and playing with them. And that can also get really overwhelming for the parents. So, so, you know, taking them outside, giving them a chance to let out any energy they might have, but then also encouraging them to, you know, kids are very receptive and also very resilient. So, you know, in a moment of frustration or anger, giving them a chance to, like, encouraging them to take 3 deep breaths, you know, let's just take 3 really long, deep breaths. You know, giving them a chance, you know, you could even do a little breathing space with them and ask them how that felt. I think listening to the sound of the bell, like anything that evokes their sensations, like listening to the sound of the bell, looking at, like, I remembered my dad used to take us outside and encourage us to look up at the stars and pay attention and notice the beauty. So getting them to look at the small, beautiful things like flowers.
And flowers. At the moment, we go to the garden once a day for an hour. Yeah, they do play with the grass, the sticks, and just pick up whatever they can find. And it's,
and also, you know, really like creativity. So kids, you know, they can get really focused for a long time if they're into a project. Yes. So there is something about giving them things that they can get absorbed in a way that's really nourishing for them as well. Art projects or a game, playing a game together.
Yeah, my son was doing quite a big piece of Lego, and 150 pages of instruction, but he was so into it, and totally absorbing. So that, I suppose, that's almost like, you know, a mindfulness practice he was doing. But when there's nothing else for him to do, he become really restless and jumping around, and it's really good. We need to slow down and pay them attention and do things together.
And also encouraging them, you know, like talking to them about their feelings and encouraging them that whatever they're feeling is okay. And you know, particularly if they're scared or angry, you know, encouraging them to let themselves have those feelings, while also not acting them out in a way that you know, may be harmful to themselves or others, but, you know, they can still talk about their feelings. And I think that it's an important part of mindfulness, also communication and being able to say what's going on for us from a place of awareness and love. You know.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So that's all my questions for today. But I think there are many areas that we can explore in the future, and hopefully we can maybe do a a more systematic like course, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to do a mindfulness course. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Whoever has been watching this video, if you're interested in, mindfulness course, then watch this space, because I think my senses will probably offer something together. It'd be very nice to do that.
Yeah, before, with this space not being used at the moment, but maybe we can just start preparing, and with the online thing everywhere now, so we can, there's nothing to stop us.
That's right. Yeah,
so you can find all this video on our website, which is rouge-shop.com, and the blog, it will be on our YouTube channel as well. But
yeah, and I'll put it up on my website. So it's www.radicalembrace.org, and I'll also put it on my Facebook page, which is also Radical Embrace.
Cool. That's so great. Thank you so much for today. I feel so grateful, and I'm going to take those practical tips and use it at home.
Me too. I was wondering, could we end with the sound of the bell one more time?
Okay.
Beautiful bell.
Thank you.